The room fell into a heavy silence, the kind that presses down on your chest without warning. My parents were laughing at me. "You really are the dumb one," my dad said, leaning back in his chair with that familiar smirk. "Seriously, how did you even get this far? Everyone else here knows you'll never amount to anything." Mom chimed in, as if on cue, her voice dripping with condescension. "Honestly, we've wasted enough energy trying to help you. Maybe it's time you figure life out on your own. Not that it matters, you've never been very good at anything anyway." The laughter around the table grew louder. Cousins, aunts, uncles, they all joined in, pointing fingers, exchanging glances, as if I were some punchline they had rehearsed for years. I felt the sting, of course. Who wouldn't? But strangely, there was no heat of anger, no embarrassment, just a strange clarity settling in, like watching a storm from behind a glass window. They thought they had me, they thought they knew me, but they had no idea. They saw my quiet nod, my calm posture, and mistook it for weakness. They didn't see the storm of thought swirling inside me. I remembered every word, every sneer, every dismissive laugh that had been thrown at me since childhood. The times I was the dumb one, the failed projects they laughed at, the ideas they said were impossible. And in that moment, I understood something. The noise of others is never proof of truth. Ego, mockery, and judgment are just echoes of their own insecurities. Their laughter wasn't about me, it was about them feeling superior. I looked at them, smiling softly. It was a smile that didn't need to defend, didn't need to argue, didn't need to explain. They saw a quiet face and assumed fear. They assumed defeat. But I was neither afraid nor defeated. I was thinking, let them speak. Let them laugh. Let them believe I'm small. I'll show them differently, on my terms. I stood up slowly, every movement deliberate. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply walked out, leaving the room, and their noise behind. Each step was a decision, a silent promise to myself. I would rise, but quietly, I would prove, not through drama, but through action. And as I reached the door, I didn't look back. Their laughter followed me for a moment, then faded, swallowed by the reality I was about to create. They thought they had won. They had no idea what I was about to do next. Years passed after that humiliating dinner. I didn't call, didn't argue, didn't demand their respect. I stopped trying to prove anything to anyone who couldn't see it. Instead, I focused on myself, quietly, deliberately, and without fanfare. I threw myself into learning. Every book, every lecture, every mistake became a stepping stone. I failed more times than I can count, but each failure was a lesson no one else was paying attention to. While my parents assumed I was drifting aimlessly, I was quietly building skills, understanding business, and testing ideas. I started small, odd jobs, freelance work, projects that no one cared about. People would laugh when I mentioned my ambitions, as if I was chasing dreams that would never materialize. And maybe they were right at the time. But I didn't need anyone to believe in me. I just needed myself. Slowly, the pieces began to align. I saved. I invested. I built networks. Every connection, every calculated risk, every late night and early morning was a silent step toward something larger. I was patient, methodical, letting growth happen in the shadows while the world, especially my parents, remained convinced I was still the dumb one. Meanwhile, the people who had ridiculed me were not immune to life's consequences. My parents' businesses faltered. Friends I once saw in their social circle drifted away. Their confidence, once so unshakable, began to crack under the weight of small failures and miscalculations. Yet, in their eyes, they still felt superior. They still mocked my supposed incompetence. I never interrupted their narrative. I didn't confront them. I didn't post achievements to provoke envy. I simply worked quietly while their chaos unfolded around them. Every day, I became stronger, not just in money or skills, but in understanding, patience, and clarity. There were moments when the truth almost revealed itself. A distant cousin would casually mention a successful project I was managing. A mutual acquaintance would drop my name in conversation, praising my work. Each time, my parents' ears perked up, their expressions flickering between curiosity and discomfort. And each time I said nothing. My silence was deliberate. I didn't need to announce my progress. They would discover it when the time was right. And slowly, I noticed the change in their behavior. Their insults became less frequent, their laughter less bold. A subtle unease lingered whenever my name came up. The world they believed they controlled, their superiority, their judgments, was no longer absolute. Unknowingly, they were watching me grow without their acknowledgement. I began to see the patterns. People mistake calm for incompetence. Noise and mockery are often disguises for insecurity. Patience, preparation, and quiet work, they underestimate those. And I had learned to use that underestimation as my advantage. By now, I wasn't just the dumb one. I was someone who had built an empire in silence. My ideas, once mocked, were now quietly changing lives. My skills, once dismissed, were now shaping industries. My calm, once mistaken for weakness, was now the very thing that kept me ahead. It was a crisp Monday morning when my parents asked me to come over, probably expecting the timid, unsure version of me they remembered. I walked in calmly, greeted them with a soft smile, and took a seat. Their eyes flicked nervously between me and the coffee table, clearly waiting for the awkward conversation they had rehearsed in their minds. I let the silence stretch a moment, sipping my coffee, letting them stew. Then I casually mentioned a project I had recently completed. Their expressions changed almost instantly. Eyes widening, lips parting, but no words came out. I could see the realization begin to dawn. I had built something they never imagined. I reached over and placed an envelope on the table. Inside was a check, $47 million, the legal profits from my latest business venture, documented and undeniable. My parents stared. Their mouths opened, closed, searched for words that didn't exist. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I simply said, calmly, I know you never believed in me. That's fine. But I believed in myself. The room was heavy with silence. Their mockery had vanished, replaced by astonishment, unease, and, somewhere beneath it all, respect. They wanted to ask how, why, when, but I didn't answer more than necessary. I didn't need to. The proof was right in front of them. I stood, smooth and composed, collected my things, and smiled. I didn't linger, didn't look back, didn't invite apologies. I had already moved beyond the labels they had given me. Their judgment no longer mattered. As I left the room, they thought I was dumb because I was quiet. They didn't know I was simply busy becoming unstoppable. And as I went about my life, quietly growing, I felt a strange satisfaction. Not revenge, not gloating, just awareness. The same people who had laughed at me, who had dismissed me, were slowly realizing, without me saying a word, that the narrative they had believed for so long was no longer true. They were still talking about me. I was already far ahead of them.